It's always a pleasure for us to be here to discuss, to perhaps look at one thing or the other with you in the course of our stay here. Now, about some weeks back, or perhaps just 2 weeks gone, Nigeria celebrated the 62nd birthday. A lot of us were happy. We jubilated, and not long ago, some people were also given special national award, a recognition for their great citizens Nigeria in one field of endeavor or the other. Now, while we celebrate, we also have moments of reflection to think of what we have been able to achieve and what we also intend to achieve in times to come. And that's why today we'll be looking at the roadmap to 2023. I think if I recall, it was the ABBA, the song musical group that had the song says, "I have a dream." And Martin Luther King also said, "I have a dream." And that's to tell us that a whole lot of people do dream at one point or the other. Sometimes we actually dream while we are awake, and that's the kind of dream we are having today. And the dream is simply focused on the Nigeria we want to see, the Nigeria we desire. Call it whatever you want to call it. But then Francis Ogbe, like I said earlier, will be guiding us on how to enjoy today's package, the backgrounder.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. I have a dream.
After 59 years, this historic and classical masterpiece by late Martin Luther King Jr. has remained evergreen on the minds of all and sundry. However, 20 or 50 years from now, where would Nigeria be? We have heard that there is an American dream. What is the Nigeria of our dream?
Nigeria of my dream would be a Nigeria where there will be peace and stability, there will be unity. A Nigeria where everybody can be able to go to hospital in Nigeria and get medical attention. And a Nigeria, more importantly, that will become a permanent member of United Nations.
I want to see a country that is secure. I want to see a country that is prosperous. I want to see a country that can feed its citizens and export to the world. I want to see a country where leadership have people as its central focus. But with all rights come responsibilities. I, as an individual, will begin by not throwing trash outside my car's window. I'll believe by making sure I respect traffic light.
I'll use myself as an example. I didn't grow up with silver spoon. My parents are petty traders, but it was through the Nigerian government, good governance, when Governor Jakonde was governor of Lagos State, that allowed someone like me from the poor area in Kwara State, from Ajashepo, growing up in the ghettos of Lagos, to get a scholarship to go to medical school and then become a professor of neurosurgery and become one of the world-renowned neurosurgeons. And now, to be recognized 30 years later by the Nigerian government as one of the citizens desirable of national honors, which is the commander of the Order of the Niger. We need to be aiming for in Nigeria that any child, regardless of background, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other creed, should have an opportunity to illustrate and really express their highest potentials. That's the Nigeria of my dream.
According to John Maxwell, one of the most famous leadership experts, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Historically, if you go through the struggle a lot of people went through to see that Nigeria gained independence, and looking at where we are today, I can assure you that the narrative is lackluster. In some instances, when you see the happenings in Nigeria today, some would tell you that our founding fathers could be reeling in pain, could be turning in their graves, because this really wasn't what they were looking forward to.
Some health experts have argued that 62 years after Nigeria's independence, the country has no healthcare management system of our dream, as the current system is still plagued by strikes, unhealthy professional rivalry, and poor working conditions.
The most important thing that we need to be focusing on now in our healthcare system is healthcare insurance. If we can get deep penetration of healthcare insurance in this country, where 80 to 90% is covered, it takes away out-of-pocket expenditures. Because someone feels, if some people in this country, you fall sick, and that could bankrupt you. Because all of a sudden, all your savings are going towards paying hospital bills. If we can get NHIS to actually spend most of the money that's invested in NHIS towards providing coverage for most of our citizens, I think we would have gone a long way.
The process of birthing a great country starts with planning and taking concrete steps to actualize the plans. Interestingly, Nigeria's economy has experienced varying cycles of growth, stagnation, and some development in the past few years.
I want to see a productive economy. We have largely become consumers. Our economy is largely import substituted. Literally everything you buy in the supermarket, go and check. Where does the recipe come from? Most of these things are imported. Now, if the world is just coming to dump its produce in your own country, how can your local currency favorably compete with the international currency for the right or for the wrong reasons?
The key word is diversification. The oil discovery is a curse and a blessing to Nigeria. Well, we have a lot of other potentials in this country that we should develop. If you look at the agricultural sector, if you look at the tourism sector, if you look at all the raw materials, minerals that we have in this country that have not even been touched. Diversification of our economy is very important. Number two, we also need to provide ease of doing business. We need to make sure that we can attract international investors to this country. So to tackle that, security must be fixed.
While transportation, logistics, and trade are all interlinked in such a way that efficient transport services are a prerequisite to achieving greater productivity, Nigeria, like other developed economies, need to start working towards achieving full implementation of a multimodal transport system, as well as making it more attractive for private investors.
We don't have a national carrier. We used to have one. When I was a kid, all I saw at airports were either private jets, military aircraft, or Nigeria Airways. We've been told that in no distant future we'll have a national carrier. The whole idea is that the transport sector in Nigeria needs to be overhauled. Imagine that you and I had wide gauge rail systems. Most of the pressure the road is under today will be reduced.
A great and prosperous Nigeria is possible. The time to start is now. Therefore, our focus on Weekend Deal today will be the Nigeria of our dream.
It's important that we dream, because a lot of times our reality can actually be an offshoot from our dream. And thinking about that, we dream in different facets. We dream in different dimensions. We also dream in different angles of development. One of them is politics. They say that every man is a political animal, so that means we have capabilities to dream even hard in our political realm. Shike has a dream, and it is political. Let's see what she has.
The amalgamation of the southern and northern protectorates of the Niger region in 1914 was to give birth to a great country, which is to become Africa's greatest. For Nigeria's founding fathers, the struggle for independence was a struggle for the actualization of the great entity that was soon to be the pride of Africa.
Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, Sadana of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello, etc. These people were freedom fighters. Today, because of their legacies, their sacrifices, it was their sacrifices that had sustained this nation up till now. If the foundation they built was not strong enough, Nigeria would have collapsed by now.
You could say nationalistic, you could say they were patriotic, you could also say that they meant well for Nigeria. But then, surprisingly, there was a coup that happened, and the benchmark of that coup was that the political class had disappointed Nigeria, and they were not living to the ethos on the basis of which they were elected into government. So that also is a question on whether one can say that they did very well.
Nigeria has all it takes to become the pride of the continent, with her vast resources in human and minerals. Because of her size, the intellect of her people, and the vast economic advantages of her endowment, the country became strategic, politically and economically. The vision was, however, short-lived, as it began to dwindle even before it all began.
When you talk about Giant of Africa, that was the name Nigeria was called in the past, giant in the sun. Today, Nigeria is a limping giant. It's still a giant, but it is limping. Why is Nigeria limping? Burden of corruption, inequality, injustice, bribery, wickedness in high places, intermittent strikes by workers at different levels, hunger, poverty. How can you be a giant with these myriads of problems?
Many years of military takeover did little to help the situation, as it is believed in some quarters that it was more perilous for the country.
Those who are in the military only understand one language, command system, command structure. They are not wired to govern, they are not wired to play politics or take over the public space, which increasingly is more about consensus building, negotiation, looking at diverse opinion and how people look at things differently and being able to wield a common ground. The coup, one would have wished that it never happened, because if it didn't happen, the politicians would have been allowed to self-correct themselves, learn their lessons, and then, of course, where they have done wrong, of course, they would right the wrong. Where they have done right, they continue to provide the kind of leadership that Nigeria requires.
Has the return to democracy made any significant impact of attaining the dreams of the founding fathers? All hope is not lost. With the determination of a people, the dream of a great nation is yearning for fulfillment.
All the stakeholders in this have a role to play. Once we have a free, fair, transparent process that guarantees free election in Nigeria, once the electorate are better informed, better educated, and more empowered, the law enforcement agencies are able to provide a level playing field for all the practitioners, and the political parties are able to show their manifesto to Nigerians. Then, of course, I'm sure that that would help us as a country to turn the curve and ensure that we deliver the dividends of democracy to Nigerians wherever we find them.
If you want Nigeria to succeed as a nation, look well before you leave. Vote for men and women of character. People who will work altruistically for the good of our people. Politicians should be able to build sustainable structures. They should be able to build legacies for which posterity will remember them.
As the nation journeys through another dispensation in 2023, it provides the people another opportunity to act to make Nigeria great again.
All right, Shikeola has a dream, and it's political. And as a matter of fact, her dream is also our dream. We want a Nigeria where the politicians, where you and I, because we're all political beings, will ensure that things are done and done well, that we grow and not become the limping giants, like he said. Now, within the week, Suleiman had a conversation with one of the political leaders somewhat, and that's the chairman of the Social Democratic Party. He is Shehu Gabam, and that conversation Suleiman brought on board. Let's see it.
We have indeed come a long way talking about our democratic journey in Nigeria, and of course we have a guest who just joined us. His name is Alhaji Shehu Gabam. He is the chairman of SDP, that is a Social Democratic Party. You are welcome to our studios.
A great pleasure, thank you.
Now, we have come a long way talking about democracy in Nigeria. Of course, we gained our independence in 1960, you know, about 62 years now. Well, 62 years now. Since our return to democracy, would you say that our democracy has witnessed, you know, consistent progress?
There was an attempt to restore democracy by former military president General Babangida. Two parties were registered, NRC and SDP. And of course, what that two-party did was to create a sense of unity, a sense of balance within the psyche of Nigerians. You either belong to the right or to the left. And by coincidence or by design, the SDP happened to pick a presidential candidate who is a Muslim, a vice presidential candidate who is a Muslim, King Gibe Abiola. And then throughout the election, there was no issue of religion that was part of the conversation. Well, what people are looking for is content. Do they have the content to drive the country? The answer is yes, they have the content. So you did not have anything about, no, is a Muslim, is a Christian. No, there was nothing like that.
If religion was not an issue, ethnicity was not an issue, so how did we get here that all these things that were not issues then have not become central when we talk about, you know, politics in Nigeria today?
Simple. From 1988, when the quintessential politicians that were in the military regime of General Abacha decided, and other stakeholders, political actors, there's the need to restore democracy and lobby the military people back to barrack without any violence. That policy was developed, that relationship was developed, and eventually the military key into it. And they agreed that parties should be registered. Parties were registered by General Abdul Salam Abubakar. And then it comes to the issue of participation. The political class have already enveloped fear of possible military strike again. So the career politicians were unable to key into the entire operation and electioneering processes. They step aside and allow elements that were patronizing the military administration, made money through contract and other things, so had money to spend. So they hijacked the political process. And you find out that most of them that were governors at that time, they have no experience of anything that have to do with political operation. And therefore, the career people were sidelined. They don't have the money. And then this guy who came in monetized the entire process, started spending money, deviated from principles of democracy, dividend of democracy, and so on and so forth. That is why we got it wrong. From that moment till now that I'm talking to you, we haven't gotten it right. Virtually, government after government, governors after governors, they are after what they can get out of the system, stealing the public post, even declaring that the money belongs to state is their own personal money.
2023 is around the corner. As a political party and also as a Nigerian, when we talk about money politics, because at the end of the day, vote buying is still an issue in our electoral process.
2023 will be determined by two factors or three factors. One, INEC is not independent to an extent. They don't deploy security agencies. They are not in charge. And if you do not create a conducive environment within the polling unit, secure it, INEC cannot deploy election materials. So in that case, INEC is interdependent. And every security that will be deployed, their commander-in-chief is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, the number one responsibility of providing a conducive atmosphere for free and fair election is to secure the environment, to avoid voters' apathy, so that voters will feel that, look, my vote is going to count and my life will be secured. Two, if you do not find a way to checkmate vote buying, there is no way we cannot put, this democracy cannot be pulled down. Conspirators and criminal elements all over the world find a way to organize crime and criminality. They have their signs getting across to potential voters, how much they want to give them. They use different proxies to reach out to them. And then there are various signals. And two, fundamentally, because poverty has been weaponized. No matter how you want to preach some people, they will not listen. They are looking for, some people are looking for simple 1,000 to feed themselves or feed their family. Somebody is offering them 5,000. So they are not thinking that after collecting that 5,000, they have to fast for another 4 years.
As we wrap up this session, talk to me about the Nigeria of your dream when we talk about the political system in Nigeria.
The Nigeria of my dream is a Nigeria where I expect to see political parties looking at the country first before their political interest. Where I see the political actors believing, committing themselves to the unity, strength, building of a nation with capacity to drive its citizens. A country where our healthcare sector will be a referral within the African countries. A country where our educational system, which is the bedrock of a nation, is being strengthened, where a large chunk of the resources will be used for funding people into scholarship, especially specialized areas, medicine, engineering, that strengthen the foundation of a nation. This money that have been taken out ruthlessly ought to have been channeled into scholarship. You have children that are exceptionally brilliant. Their parents cannot afford to send them to school. And again, you have a bureaucratic bottleneck within the Ministry of Education, including JAM, who is serving as a revenue generating outfit, that is sabotaging its own citizens, bringing difficult process for parents to send their children to school. If you want to assess your result, you have to pay 2 or 3 times anytime you want to assess it. It's uncalled for. So some of the policies are primitive policies that need to have been changed given the globalization that we are in. We need to key into the system, regenerate our thinking, redesign the policy of the drive of the country so that we will be among the first and equal developing countries that are up to date in terms of discharging their responsibilities.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Shehu Gaban, for speaking to us. The idea is to put Nigeria first in everything we do.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
My great pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let's go on a break, and after that, the show continues. Please stay with us.
All right, still Weekend Deal and looking at Nigeria of our dream. And this is one dream that we dream while we are awake. And when you dream it, you walk the dream, not just walk the talk. All right, we'll be going to look at something quite interesting here. It benefits everyone. And when you talk about it, all of us, want to clamor for it. It is the making money economy. Still, Suleiman will be looking at it. When we talk about making money, there are several things we can actually do to enhance the pockets, enhance the food on our table. One of them is agriculture. Suleiman took a big dip into the agricultural sector and his dream he brought to us.
Agriculture has always been at the front burner of the development of any nation from inception. In Nigeria, it accounts for about 35% of employment opportunities. Successive governments developed policies to arrest the challenges in the sector, which is critical for the country's economic growth and development. The goal is to re-establish the success experienced in the 60s. Then, Nigeria had enough to feed its population and excess for export. Today, it's almost impossible not to make reference to the oil boom that truncated the sector.
We make reference to the past because Nigeria's economy used to be purely agrarian. We had nothing else but agriculture. So we lost it because we abandoned agriculture for oil. And then instead of using whatever we got from oil to harness our agriculture, we began doing other things. And then unfortunately also, there is a lot of corruption. A lot of people simply misused the opportunities that we have.
The present administration has been proactive in its bid to diversify the economy away from oil. To achieve this, it must find solutions to the challenges stalling the sector. These include lack of integration into the value chain, insufficient funding, poor infrastructure, policy somersault, lack of modernization and mechanization, to mention but a few.
Now we have threats, that affect productivity, from COVID-19 to insecurity, and now this flooding, which has taken center stage. To be able to get out of it all, we need to incentivize the farmers to learn to do farming all year round, to also deploy climate-smart agriculture, to deploy also system of crop intensification that requires very little chemical inputs, like fertilizers and all that. We will also have to adopt biotechnology that leads to GM crops.
A number of policies and interventions have been introduced to fully maximize the potentials of the sector. The Anchor Borrowers Program is one of such interventions. It has improved the fortunes of rural farmers appreciably. The CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, confirmed that national output of rice has moved from about 5.4 metric tons in 2015 to over 9 metric tons in 2021. This, however, has not reduced the price of the agricultural produce in the market.
Price hike has got so many things bringing it about. One of them is the purchasing power of even the naira. You see the exchange rate to the dollar is such that everybody, imports most of the things that they use, even the chemicals that we use, and even the components of our fertilizers are imported, and then we buy in dollars. So what is happening in the market is that the production cost has to be at least met, or the farmer has to break even, and then you must make profit.
Some analysts say Nigeria has been unable to convert its enormous comparative advantage in the production of several agricultural primary produce to competitive advantage in the global market as a result of supply chain constraints. Poor packaging and labeling, poor storage facilities, and poor preservation techniques have also been identified as challenges.
We are feeding many of these countries informally. They are not rejecting it. The conditionalities that we get from global gap, I think, are deliberate, because some of them come to buy these things themselves from somewhere and then export them there. Some people even say that they don't want Nigerian rice, they want imported one, whereas the imported one may be a 10-year production. What we produce in our farms is that current year, but people say they prefer the imported one.
When President Buhari said Nigerians should consume what is produced locally, the idea is to discourage importation, reduce pressure on the exchange rate of the naira, and grow the economy. The ease of doing business in Nigeria is gaining global recognition, and emerging commercial farming in Nigeria will lead to food security and sufficiency in Nigeria. This will put the country in a good spot to engage and integrate fully into the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
And it is Nigeria's chance to be the giant of Africa in all ramifications, because there are so many competencies that we can really improve on. And then we look at the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria and allow each zone to really expand its area of competence and do it very well, feed itself, and then send the surplus out to sell. We have had so much informal trade. In this hemisphere, Nigeria has been responsible for feeding most of the countries. If you go to Dawano market, for instance, you find so many trucks going up to Timbuktu, Niger Republic, and the corridor to Ghana is also very open. We take all kinds of things there, but informally. So when we start to do it formally, we will be able to participate very well in AFTA.
The dream of every Nigerian is for the country to produce enough to feed its citizens and the surplus for the export market.
All right, the dream of every Nigerian is to produce food. And the man who spoke with us during our first intro as the backgrounder, he said that Nigeria he dreams of is the Nigeria that can produce food in abundance, so much so that we can consume and still have enough to export and make money out of. That's Jack Dane. And the next person will be telling us why we are not exactly making that money out of our export. He is the chairman of the technical committee on export reject, and his name is Suleiman Adebayo. He's not here with me because Suleiman already had that conversation during the week. Let's see it.
I think the first thing to emphasize and to also underscore is the renewed efforts and commitments of the federal government to diversify the economy away from hydrocarbon resources. And there are a lot of activities or initiatives in that regard. We have the issue of the Zero Oil Plan, identified by 11 strategic products, and we also have the issue of Commerce 44 that has been upgraded to Commerce 160 in terms of strategic products to strategic market to strategic countries, and there are still several other initiatives of the government in terms of diversification agenda. More importantly, is to enhance the export competitiveness of Nigerian products, not only in terms of goods, but also in terms of services. And I think what the government is also doing is to leverage on the opportunity that also exists, either in terms of the ECOWAS region, where you have the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, also in terms of African Continental Free Trade Agreement, where the opportunity is also immense, and also some strategic trading partners of Nigeria in many countries of the world. The first thing is to acknowledge the problems. The second one is to know where the barriers exist. And the third one is also to be aware of the global market dynamisms and the global best practices. No countries of the world jokes with the issue of standards, which also has something to do with health. And in most cases, food-related items are the most regulated in the world. And therefore, what we need to do is to recognize that in terms of standard, in terms of quality, in terms of certification, in terms of packaging. And I think the government is also addressing that. More importantly, is also to ensure the strengthening of the capacity of our regulatory agencies, particularly those who are overseeing the activities in terms of the imports, the activities in terms of the exports, but more importantly, those regulatory agencies that deal with standards like Standard of Measuring of Nigeria, NAFDACs, and all other border agencies all have different roles to play. So I think the starting point is to ensure that the qualities of products that leave Nigeria shores of high quality standards, and also the issue of traceability, the issue of certification, and the issue of training, particularly to the farmer in terms of using the best global agricultural practices. I think there are a lot of things that can be done to also build capacity, but more importantly is to ensure that the quality of product that comes from Nigerians are of high qualities. And when there are some excessive requirements that are beyond standards of technical regulation, I think it is the responsibility of the government to draw attention to that they do not be seen as an indirect way to restrict international trade. I think that is the kind of balance that we ensure takes place. So when we talk about export, we must ensure that there is value addition, they are of high quality. And in terms of consumption too, it's also in the interest of Nigeria because we also have very sizable number of Nigerians abroad that also consume some of these products. I think there are a lot of possibilities and a lot of potentials. All we need to do is to reawaken this particular spirit, the spirit of the Father. We can still do it again. The spirit that there is wisdom in trying to go back to the successes of the past, the success stories, and the fact that also countries that are almost at the same level with Nigeria will also take a good example from what they did in terms of agriculture, in terms of transformation, in terms of revolution, in terms of adding value to the product. I think we can still do it again. But the federal government cannot do it alone. So the mistake we're all making is by thinking that everything has to be done by the federal government. No, federal government will provide the necessary direction, the necessary environment for business to thrive. But the private sector will also need to key into this. They are the operators. And in terms of policy environment, I think we need to have the right policy environment. But we also have to change the mindset and the narrative that agriculture is the best way to go in terms of food security, in terms of employment generation, job creation, and the rest. And I think we need to make it attractive in terms of business that people can engage in legitimately and be able to earn, the appropriate resources and revenue that will be self-sustaining. If you recall, when Mr. President signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and that message will continue to resonate in terms of promoting aggressively consumptions of what we produce and also producing what we consume. So consumption is very important. We will not only produce for the export market, we also need to produce for the local market. So production is very important. And not only producing, but consumption is also very important too. So in other words, we encourage in terms of the different programs of the government initiative and the kind of message we have been getting from our leadership, from our principals, that let's consume what we produce and let's produce what we consume. I think that's very important, and everybody must key into this, and we must be committed towards realizing this particular agenda and dream. And it's something that is sustainable, and it's something that also makes sense in terms of every aspect of our life, in terms of entertainment industry, in terms of services and the rest, in terms of the goods. So we can't just continue to pay lip service to consumption. We have to consume what we produce and do as much as possible to produce what we also consume. I think the best is just to have the right mix in terms of balance between the objectives of local consumption, sustainability, and more importantly, taking advantage of the market access opportunity for us to be able to earn foreign exchange. Over the year, Nigeria has always been driven with vision, and we have vision. And if you recall, most of our programs, the government agenda is always driven by vision, where we want to be in the year 2020, where we want to be in the year 2030, where we want to be in the year 2060. All that is required is for all of us to key into this dream, into this vision, and to make it a reality. And we're all players in this. The success of the nation, the success of government program, and our collective aspirations and determinations and efforts will ensure that Nigerians truly get to the level of realizing its full potentials, because everybody believes that this is a very great country, this is a great nation, and yet we don't take advantage of the potential we have. So what is important is to harness all this and ensure that truly we translate this potential into reality, and we're all players in this ecosystem. I think that's the message for all of us, whether in the government, outside the government, and the private sector. We need cooperations of all the players at all levels. We need collaborations of all the players at all levels, and we must ensure that synergy exists and nobody should work or operate in silos.
All right, Nigeria is packed full with very raw potentials, very raw resources, and we all need to put our hands on deck to ensure that we get it all on board, especially within the agricultural sector. All right, the show will be continuing, but that will be shortly after now, and I have a guest with me in the studio.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, CFR, invites all honorable ministers, head of the Civil Service of the Federation, permanent secretaries, and top government functionaries to a 2-day midterm ministerial review retreat to be presided by His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The retreat is scheduled as follows. Date, Monday 17th to Tuesday 18th October 2022. Venue, State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Time, 9 a.m. daily. The objectives of the third year ministerial performance review retreat include the following. Review the performance of ministries in delivering the ministerial mandates signed in 2019. Identify and propose solutions towards resolving key impediments to implementation and re-strategize on how to accelerate the delivery of results along the 9 priority areas of the administration, especially as it is winding down. Accreditation of participants for the retreat will commence at the venue on Saturday 15th and Sunday 16th October 2022 from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Attendance is mandatory and strictly by invitation. Please note that there will be rapid COVID-19 tests for all participants at the accreditation venue on Saturday and Sunday. Announcer James Sule, Permanent Secretary, Cabinet Affairs Office, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Sportybet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
All right, weekend deal. I told you that I have a live guest with me, and I will be introducing him right about now. He is a man, for me, man of the hour, yes, because he just got another feather added to his cap, and it seems like it's a habit for him to continuously add something to himself. First, his looks are changed. Yes, maybe the camera will capture him as I introduce him. Professor Obiora Okonkwo. When you walked in, I was like, okay, that's the body, but that's not the face.
That's the new face of me.
Okay, that's your new face. Yes. And the new face came with a new title, OFR.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How does it feel to be, recognized and acknowledged by your own country?
Well, it feels good. What that tells me is that no matter what little thing you are doing at some corner, keep on doing it, be patient. Despite all odds, one day somebody somewhere would come out and say, yeah, I know you are there, and show some appreciation. So that was quite encouraging and motivating. Okay. And I hope others will learn from that, especially coming from an APC government, given to me a visible PDP member, so one would have thought that it's
I mean, when you have done so much that even the I don't want to say opponent or opposition, but the man on the other side recognizes you. It's what's celebrating, and I celebrate you this morning.
Yeah, coincidentally, somebody, when I asked why me, where have you seen me, and somebody said yes, for all you do across sectors, academics, aviation, trade, with the Chamber of Commerce and all that. So we see you, so you can't hide and say, well, I have to wait until D-Day to be sure.
A golden fish has no hiding place.
Yeah.
And you mentioned cross-sector, and in the course of that, you also mentioned transport. I want to join a colleague of mine to look at the Nigerian of our dream with regards to the transport sector. When we come back, I'll take you on that.
Thank you.
The dreamer in me won't go to sleep without finding out if anyone else is dreaming. And here I am with some co-dreamers who had an encounter with the transportation from one end of Nigeria to the other, just post-colonial period, recounting the experience and telling the dream of a transport sector they see.
Nigeria was a huge landmass with very rudimentary road transportation system, but fairly effective, and the railway was there as well to complement what the road was doing, and of course Nigeria Airways was there. So moving locally around the Northeast was largely by trucks. It's a mixed bag. We have followed on with the world development in aviation, for instance, the world development in vehicular improvements.
So it is that I journeyed on, met some young people who love to dream like I do on that journey. I saw the expression on their faces,
But can I say what they are dreaming about? The road, the rail, the state-of-the-art equipment they see. Can this be Nigeria? Oh, but it was only a dream, a longing as they saw models. Can this be Nigeria? Is it possible?
The railway came with colonialism, and the structure of the railway system and the transportation system under colonialism was to enhance that system, that mode of administration. Now we're in a new era. It's the post-colonial era. It is now up to us to redefine our transport system, to connect our communities, to connect our industries, to go beyond the extractive suburbs and hubs, to boost the economy.
The journey of 1,000 miles is achieved by taking steady, sturdy steps on steeps and slopes, highs and lows, success in view. So I sought to find out how steepy the slopes of success in the transport sector of Nigeria are.
So yes, we've moved on, but with the roads and the better vehicles, you still cannot move as freely as we were moving in the 60s and the 70s, simply because it won't be safe to do so. We have made improvements in some segments, but we've also have not sustained the improvements, and that's why we have those roads. Go north, east, south, and west, the roads are in a very poor state. Even though we spent a lot of money to build them in the 70s, this is the 2000s, we've abandoned them.
Dreams indeed do come true, not without a wake-up and not without work. So says history, as models have emerged world over in many transport sectors. Evolving technology prove this. Nigeria is an evolving nation, therefore an evolving technological hub filled with great dreamers and doers. Can their dreams come true, though? Is it possible that these teeming youths and young people then can have a transport sector in the likes of models that are of reckon?
The Dubai model is an excellent example of intermodal transport planning, transport engineering, and execution. It consists of the usual stuff: the railway, the monolines, the bus system, the water system. If you are working in aviation, make aviation happen. If you are working in NIWA, Nigerian Inland Waterways, Onitsha has been concessioned. It's an incremental process. But if we want to do it in a revolutionary way, we can draw the line 2023 and say, you know what? We are redesigning what we have. We are going for a quantum leap in the structural development of Nigeria. We want something radical and revolutionary.
I see this dream come true. Yes, indeed, a world-class transportation system in Nigeria is a dream that will come true as we wake up from our slumber as a people, as a nation with one united vision.
All right, we dream hard and we hope that one day our dream will come true, just like Martin Luther King Jr. said. And one of the dreams is really to travel whenever we want to. And the man who is the chairman of a particular, airline is still here with me. I'm talking about Professor Obiora Okonkwo, and you're also the chairman, United Nigerian Airlines. I want to look at that aspect of you first before I go into another part of you. You're a man with different dimensions. Now, me trying to get to Lagos ordinarily and come back, I need to take my whole 1 month salary. It wasn't like that. I recall then when we used to get a ticket for as little as maybe 1% of what I was paid, And we thought as we grew older as a nation, things will come easier for us. What's going on?
Naira was about 500, 550 in the powder market for $1. Today we are hitting about 700 and something Naira, and aviation fuel is above 800 Naira. We even lost the the energy to sit down and start looking at what to do about the prices is quite a big issue. So it's quite unfortunate. That's what it is. But with the way things are, it will only the adjustment of prices will be inevitable if you continue to expect the airlines to operate and also offer your services without compromising anything about safety. Thank God the safety of aviation industry in Nigeria, for me, is top amongst the first 2, 3 in the whole world. The regulators are very, very strict, and in fact, sometimes we think we are being overregulated because so many issues that are not the case in some Western world are toughened up here. But that's good. So if you are complying here, you can meet any standard in any part of the world. So the good news, no matter what the situation is that the air is safe. It's safe to travel in Nigeria by air, no compromises, but service quality to be stable, consistent. Prices have to be just right.
The question I often ask is, the aviation fuel we use in Nigeria, is it different from the one used in other places?
No. Oh, no.
Okay, it's the same aviation fuel. So how come a ticket from JFK, for instance, to Miami will cost me round trip $120, which is equivalent of close to 100,000 naira. But a ticket from here to, Lagos and back will probably cost me, if I buy it a week to go, about 180.
So how many hours of flight?
It's about 3 hours about 1 hour or so too. The same kind of time.
Okay. So one thing you may not know that is that $120 which you bought for that trip could just be 5% of the ticket ratio, and that there could have been people who are paying $3,000 to fly in the same aircraft sitting next to you. Okay. That's the way it's done. But for the records, aviation fuel is the same all over the world. Aviation is the same all over the world. But aviation fuel is just should ideally be about 30 to 40% of the cost.
So let me take you a little bit, back to other things that I know you are part of. One of them is just being a political animal. Coming to America, at the tail end, the guy said everyone has a dream and keep on dreaming. So what's your own dream of a Nigeria? Well,
we dream dreams. It changes. Different
you
time.
Dream, are you? When you wake up, they dream.
I'll live it. But you see, if at this age, I think I should be able to tell you that I could have a stable understanding of what Nigeria is and what it should be. When I was younger, it was different. But today, I want a Nigeria where there is peace, justice, equity, and unity.
Speaking of growing, that's a lot of work. It's a teamwork between the leaders and the led. I'm talking about the citizenship. Once upon a time, you actually tried to, you contested, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the end to that story, but that's not what I'm looking at now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to speak on the citizenship's participation in growing Nigeria. What should they do to ensure that they understand that Nigeria is ours, it's not theirs, so to speak?
There is this common understanding which at some point I shared, that our problem mainly is with leadership. Some people might argue that and believe in it, but in my recent thought process, I've deeply looked at our situation, and I think that I can do the reverse, that instead of giving leadership 80%, I should give the followers, 80% as part of our problem and 20% leadership. It might be difficult for some people to understand. a leader is as good as the followers. I can tell you that there is nobody who get into public office, be a governor or a president, without a genuine intention to leave a legacy. We're human beings.
For real.
I can tell you that. But now when you get there, what do you see? You see people around you, because it just doesn't take one man to get it done. And some of these people around you will start showing you possibilities of probably doing what you never imagined is possible. But on the other hand, also, even if somebody had that worst intention going into the office, and the person gets there and has a system that works, one would also be discouraged and stopped from achieving his evil intention. So, for that, I can tell you that the citizens, the followers, they have a great role to play.
True.
We've just talked about people maybe winning an election to National Assembly and then sitting tight there and making all the money, preparing for the next election. Who do they give this money to?
The citizenship.
The citizens. They go there to collect the money to vote. If they refuse the money, if they vote the person out, if they refuse the person from coming home, then he will lose the election.
Definitely.
And where people have done that right, they have also booted some people out of office.
All right.
But I believe that for that, in addition, for us to get things better, there must be some kind of elite consensus. All right. If we know that this country belongs to all of us, and we have no other country except here, that no matter how much wealth we're able to accumulate, send our kids to overseas, they embrace foreign culture, and may not like living, come back to be part of our developmental process, then we know it's right time for us to make Nigeria the best home in the whole world.
Okay.
And only elites can come together around the table like great days, and things will change overnight.
Thank you so much. You can't say anything that I will agree less to, because it is behoves on all of us, both the elites and the non-elites, to actually sit around and make things work. Thank you so much. Dream on. It's a promised land for all of us. We'll be here again tomorrow to assess your dream and, of course, help you walk your dream, not walk the talk now. See you. My name again is Elizabeth. Ciao, ciao.